I find that as a survivor, we get into this mindset of thinking, if only I didn't have a brain injury, I'd be able to do this. If only I didn't have a brain injury, I would never have to take a break. And we idealize this idea of who we were before, or this idea of a healthy brain. And we create this perfect version of ourselves in our head that's not injured. And you think, if only I didn't have a brain injury, I'd be able to do this, and I'd be able to do that, and I'd be able to do this, and my life would be perfect, and I would never have to take a break, and I could do so much more, and I'd be able to show up for my friends and for my family, and just do so much more in my life. And we kind of, I think I do that to myself too, because one major setback that I have is I don't have a driver's license due to my TBI. And at one point I was able to get my learner's permit. It did not go well. And I was working with the driving rehab program at the hospital, and I got paralyzed and I got anxious, and all I could think about was all the brain injuries that happen in car accidents, and I just couldn't do it. And also with my reaction time, my processing speed, it just wasn't a good idea. And so I haven't tried again. And I know that's a big goal of mine. Someday I want to be able to drive, but I get into this mindset of, if only I could drive, I could see my friends and I could do this. And I set this ideal of myself. And then I think, well, if only I didn't have all these headaches, and I'd be so productive, and I wouldn't have to take breaks, and I'd be able to do so much more. And all that to say, I'm rambling a little bit, but I feel like as survivors, we set this ideal, this idol in a sense of no brain injured person. Like if we didn't have a brain injury, what our life would be like, or of other people that don't have brain injuries. But if there's one thing that this pandemic and everything that, we've seen is everyone struggles with mental health. Everyone struggles with a huge transition in their life and not being able to do the things they used to be able to do. And we have gone through that as brain injury survivors on a deeper level. And so when it comes to learning how to prioritize your life, I just wanted to make this note of, you're not less because you have to say no to something. You're not less of a person. You don't have less value. You are not less than in any way. Being able to prioritize and do the things that you need to do for your brain injury recovery, maybe whether it's medical recommendations, implementing into your lifestyle, learning how to prioritize, and living a sustainable lifestyle for yourself, it doesn't mean, it's not because you're broken. We're all human. And so realizing that you can be stronger through this, learning how to prioritize and set a schedule and more of a routine, and readjusting and evaluating and figuring out what's good for yourself. It's not just because you're this broken, brain injured person. It's because you are choosing to take your health into your own hands, and you're choosing to do what's best for you, and you're choosing to do the hard thing and to heal and to grow. And we all have to learn how to do that in a sense. And for those of us with brain injuries, our brain just maybe burns out a little faster than others.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think that, one of the things that sometimes happens, and, this isn't just reserved for the brain injury community, but I think sometimes we get locked into identifying ourselves with one label, right? So again, you're saying, if I didn't have a brain injury, so now you've labeled yourself as this brain injury survivor, and that all the things that you're dealing with is because you have a brain injury. But I think if you start talking to other people that you may relate to on another level, so, for you and me, Christabel, we would talk to other women, right? With or without brain injuries, other women who may be doing podcasts, or other women who may have similar, ambitious, goals that we have. We want to talk to other individuals that we can relate on to another level, because they may be able to highlight some things that they're going through that maybe you associated with just this one part of you. And now you're realizing oh, it's not just because I have a brain injury. Like, other working moms with no brain injury deal with the same thing, or other students in this type of field, they're majoring in this hard subject just like I am, and they're dealing with the same thing. So I think sometimes, again, it takes expanding our view and being willing to talk to others and not closing in on our world with this tunnel vision that prevents us from being able to really experience new things that, again, can propel us forward in a way that's going to enhance our overall quality of life.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great point. And for those of us with brain injuries, that's part of our journey. It's part of our story. It's not all of it. It's not everything of who you are. It's just part of your journey and it's part of your story. And yes, maybe that's the cause of why you maybe feel this way, but it doesn't mean you're the only one who feels this way. And so this goes back to kind of what you're talking about at the beginning as community, relating to others and realizing you're not alone. And so, Marlene, before we go today, I always like to ask our guest, what is a final word of encouragement or hope that you would have for our listeners today, whether they're a survivor themselves or they're maybe a caregiver or a family member listening on figuring out a way to help their survivor?
The last thing I want to leave you with is that you can be a learner and a teacher at the same time. Again, whenever someone is giving you advice, giving you a medical recommendation, remember that you don't just have to follow it, that you have the opportunity to teach in return too. Again, it should be an interactive dialogue. And I think that goes with anything that you're doing in life, all the interactions that you have. We have an opportunity to be the listener, the learner, and to mentor and teach. We all have a foundation of knowledge that's important to share. And as long as we're open to communicating that with each other, then what a better world we would all be living in today.
Through your darkest night, hope survives.